I'm Lisa Dahl, health and well-being coach, and welcome to Getting Healthy Without Rules. This show is about understanding all the things that impact your wellness and finding ways to improve it. In this show, we support a non-diet, no-rule approach to health and wellness. Health and wellness is a moving target, and we all have different needs and opportunities. This allows you to make the best choice with the information that you have right now. It helps you to be present, flexible, and resilient. In addition, I support you from shifting from judgment to curiosity and offering yourself self-compassion. It is time that we are all a little bit kinder to ourselves. In this show, we have talked about a simple 3-step process on how to improve your health and wellness. And the first step is always about awareness, understanding the things that are going to impact your personal wellness. The second is creating a vision for your best future self. And the third step in the process is finding simple actions and behaviors that are going to help you reach your goals. Today's episode is about finance and their connection to health and wellness. We're going to explore how our health and wellness is impacted by our finances, how to create a positive money mindset, simple steps you can take to improve your financial fitness, and crucial conversations. Why is it so hard to talk about money? Be sure to stay to the end for a tool to help you create your positive money mindset. Today, I am privileged to introduce you to Kia Miner, a financial fitness coach. Kia is a financial fitness coach based in Rhode Island and serving women nationwide. She aims to serve and educate the communities she is passionate about, those who must fight harder for their success. Her mission is to empower female professionals and to improve their financial wellness and build generational wealth. Kia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I'm so happy to be here.
I am thrilled. It's such an important conversation. I don't know anybody who has not experienced some angst from financial stress. And it often seems no matter how much we've earned, how hard we have worked, we're still trying to figure out how to do all the things that we want to do and take care of ourselves.
Absolutely.
So tell me, how are you seeing our finances affecting people's health and wellness?
I think you hit the nail on the head talking about angst, right? And also talking about whether you have a lot or a little. There's always a physical manifestation that we deal with in terms of understanding or trying to understand what we should do. And the stress that comes along with it, the anxiety that comes along with it, the almost analysis paralysis, right? So much information out there and really wondering what's right for me. Does this make sense? Finding something that should work for you and then feeling like you failed at it. So then you stop trying because you don't feel good about the fact that you've done anything quote unquote right. But I see all of that all the time. And what I always tell people is you're doing so much better than you think you are, right? Because of the overflow of information, it's really easy to misunderstand where you're at and how you can do better.
The way you just described it, it reminds me of how I work with my clients with health and wellness, where everything is an experiment. Mm-hmm. It's not the pass-fail. What did you learn, and how do you turn that experiment or that challenge into a new gift and opportunity?
Absolutely, absolutely.
What do you find are the top financial stressors you see when working with your clients?
I would say the biggest one is always debt. And no matter who I'm talking to, whether they have, they're just above the poverty line or they're making more money than they know what to do with, the first thing is, I have this debt, I want to get rid of it, I don't know what to do, help me, can I just do all this at the same time? And I get it, when you think about the stats, the average American has at least $15,000 in debt. And whether that's a huge number for you or a small number for you, that's still something that you want to get rid of, right? It's like a blemish or a red mark.
I love the way that you framed that dollar itself is not what's important. It is how it relates to your perspective and your lifestyle, and that we can't diminish the fact that $15,000 could be a whole lot of money to somebody. And we have such a different way of looking at our personal finances and the judgment, the unfortunate judgment that goes with it.
Yeah.
I have a couple of different questions. I'm trying to get them all in order.
Yeah.
Is there something as good debt versus bad debt?
That's a really good question, and that's actually something that comes up a lot. And depending on who you talk to, the answer will be different. I always preface this with that, right? Because everybody has their own opinions. But for me, good debt looks like a mortgage on a home or even student loan debt, right? Because creditors are seeing that as, yes, you have debt, but that was going to fund your education. When we're looking at bad debt, we're talking about something that's in collections. No matter what it was, if it's gone to collection, that's bad debt because you're showing creditors that you weren't responsible enough, unfortunately, to take care of that debt before it got there. And those types of debts are like medical bills, credit cards, personal loans, car notes, things like that, that would be considered bad debt.
Quote unquote bad debt.
Yeah.
So tell me about financial fitness. What is good financial fitness? It's such a unique word.
Yeah.
Is that a new word? Is it your word? Where does that come from?
It's not mine. I wish I could take credit for it and patent it and make some extra money, but it's not mine. But I do resonate with it a lot because my background comes from sports. I was a college athlete and I'm a former collegiate basketball coach. So fitness has always been a huge part of my life. And it made sense because when I think about fitness and dieting and things like that, I try to take the same approach with that. And this is part of the reason why we got connected.
Yeah,
right?
this was a perfect segue.
Yeah, we think the same way, right? And that's how I try to implement my strategies when helping people with their money. Strategies that think about fitness and substantiating a long-term plan while also understanding that it ebbs and flows and it's a roller coaster and sometimes we have to pull back and the strive to create balance in your finances. And I think that's where the fitness part comes from.
It just makes it a kinder, gentler approach where, as opposed to saying, what is a typical title of somebody who does what you do?
Advisor or representative.
And it feels like when you're talking to a financial advisor, you kind of feel like they're up here and you're down here. And it seems like you have taken away that hierarchy and trying to bring people in to understand that they're not alone in this process.
Yeah.
What is a positive money mindset?
Oh, that's my favorite topic, I have to tell you. And especially in the last year, because I feel like there is more of a willingness to talk about mindset, right? And the popular term is woo-woo, right? I don't want to go woo-woo, but it definitely seems like people are more open to that side of the conversation. And so being able to implement that in my practice has been really cool because it's more than just numbers on a page, right? It's the person sitting in front of you and it's the mindset and the emotions that go into all the decisions that you're making. So when we're talking about a positive money mindset, it's really focusing on abundance. And in general, most people know abundance mindset as thinking of all the potential positive outcomes in their life, right? Ridding themselves of fear because even though if they don't have the answer to the question, they know that they're going to figure it out. And that keeps them in a positive mindset. And we take that and use that in regards to money. For example, if unfortunately, if you're in a situation where your bills are due on Friday and you don't have enough to cover it on Tuesday, instead of freaking out and letting that pain in your chest and that dropping you're feeling in your stomach take over and paralyze you, you're talking to yourself and you're reminding yourself, like, look, we've gotten this far and we've been okay, and I don't know where the money is going to come from, but it always comes. So I'm going to let that be my reality, and then come Friday, something, whatever that something is going to make sure that you can continue to pay your bills and meet the expectations that you've set out for yourself.
So you see the whole person in how you are working with your clients. They are not just a balance sheet.
Absolutely.
And, I'm 57. I have met with financial advisors. I've, in, out, yes, no. And I really feel like you are the first person that I've ever spoken to about this that sees it as a whole body experience, and that with those decisions, it's not black and white, that there is so much mind drama going on and the physical pain that people feel inside their bodies, and you are seeing that, which is really different and such a refreshing take on such a hard topic.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that.
What are the common mistakes, and and I don't want to use the word mistakes based on this conversation, but what are the common missteps that people that you see happen when it comes to their finances that they learn from? So why don't we, how to shift this into a positive, but calling them out and saying, how can we prevent some of these things?
I think it generally starts with doing things in the right order, and also that order relating to specifically where you are right now, right? So the first thing is 9 times out of 10, when somebody comes to sit down with me, they want to talk about how to invest their money, and they want to figure out how to have their money work for them because they read something or they saw something, or that's just the conversation that's happening. And I'm always saying, yes, we can do that, but before we get there, I have to know where you're at currently, because I wouldn't be working in the best interest of you if I just took your money and put it somewhere and now you can't pay your rent in 2 months, you know? So I think that the common misconception is that that's what you should be doing no matter what, instead of starting with understanding where you're at and figuring out what type and what kind and maybe what amount of money you have to take certain steps like investing and filling up your proper buckets. That's my favorite phrase.
Right. So we need to think about the present. You need to be able to stay flexible, and you need to be able to plan for that long term, and so that you can be resilient in whatever direction you're going.
Absolutely.
What makes it so hard for people to save?
Great question also. And one of my favorite things to help people with, I had one of my first clients in my first year. We were able to get her out of debt in under 365 days just by implementing different saving strategies that she could wrap her head around, and she'd been trying to do it for herself. And so once that happened, I was like, oh, wow, this works, you know? Like, this works, and I gotta tell everybody about it. And it really is, it comes down to automation, to be honest. When you think about how you put money into a retirement account, it happens immediately. You don't see it, you don't use it. And that's what people don't do. Normally, when you get paid, the money goes into whatever account, checking, savings, call it whatever you want, and then it goes out to whatever you need to pay for, and then whatever's left over, you might throw to a savings account. But then it's Saturday and you want to go out with your friends and get drinks, or you want to go to the movies, or you want to take your child somewhere that costs money, so you pull from that savings account, maybe some of it, maybe all of it, and you continue that cycle, so you never see the account grow because you're doing it last.
If you had to give any advice to I'm going to ask it in a couple of different phases. One is as a parent with young children, teaching them to save. Like, we grew up with the piggy bank. I don't even know if the piggy bank exists anymore. Do they have their very own Venmo account? I don't know. But what advice would you give to a parent who really wants to start to instill that? And at what age is that conversation needing to have?
I think there's varying degrees of the conversation, but I think making it commonplace in the home is the best way to start. I think that removes some of the shame and the guilt, because it's just what we talk about, right? And even if you're just putting out some coins on the table and saying, what is this and what is that and what do we do with it? And as they get older, making the conversation more complex, but just making it normal. And then in terms of tangible ways to help them save, like my mom was great with this when we were children. We had our own savings account. Yeah. And like, it's different now. You know, like we used to go to the bank together and I would put my little $20 in the bank. But I think that still can be the case, because to me, I mean, I'm not that old, but I think a piggy bank can still work when they're little, right?
Yep.
Like they get an allowance or they get birthday money, you put in that piggy bank and you talk about what it's there for. And then when they're old enough to understand having a bank account, you open that bank account. Like I have a 16-year-old stepson, and we went to the bank with him last week and opened his first account, and he got to put his little $100 in there, and now he's so excited about having a card and you know, having a job hopefully this summer. But that's because of the conversations that we've had with him leading up to this point. So he really understands it and gets it and is excited about, you know, stepping into his adulthood as with money.
Then, you know, as a parent and you have a child who is just graduating college, how do you know, they have student loans, they're trying to pay their rent, they want a car, they have all these things. How do you help them understand the importance of getting into that habit of saving now, that has equal status of all those tangible things. What does that conversation look like?
That's a hard one. That's a hard one.
Any magic words there?
Yeah, that's a hard one. And it would really, really determine how you've had the conversations thus far. Because, I think back even myself, it wasn't a hard conversation for me because of the way I grew up. I knew I had to make certain decisions to sustain myself. But if you weren't in that situation where you working for money that you actually had to use, thinking about putting money somewhere when you have to pay rent and you want a car, they're like, no, I'm just going to spend it and I'm going to put it where I can utilize it. But I think, talking about long-term goals are really important. Like, okay, this is really important to you now, but what about next year when you want to move? Where are you going to get that money from? Because I'm not giving it to you, even if you might. But
right. Trying to set boundaries, trying to help them look future versus just right now. Yeah. We live in a society that is so, instantaneous.
Absolutely.
Helping to learn how to think more futuristic.
Definitely.
Here's a question that I always hear people trying to figure out. Why is life insurance such a controversial topic? Pros, cons, do you, don't you?
Yeah.
What do you do with that?
Yeah, again, with finances in general, there's so much information. So no matter where you go, you can hear good or bad, or never get this, or always do this, or only do that. And again, for me, we'll answer why it's controversial. It's controversial because there's no one way to make it fit for you. And I think that that's what most of the conversation is. You can read an article and say, if you have this amount of money and you own this amount of assets and you have this amount of kids, and you should have this specific life insurance. And doesn't take into account all the other things that make up who you are. And yes, life insurance, I believe, is very important for everybody to have. But there's a strategy to make sure that that can be fit seamlessly into your current lifestyle so that you're not having to cancel it. Like, a lot of times what I see from clients coming in is they may have had life insurance, and sometimes they're not that old. Like I have, say, I'm 31, I have people that are around my age, and they got life insurance policies when they were 20, 21 because someone told them to, but then they felt like they were overpaying, or something happened and they couldn't afford it. So they canceled it, but they were just paying into something for 10 years.
And got nothing out of it.
And got nothing out of it. And that's the bad taste in their mouth, right? So there's so many different unfortunate situations that I feel like usually drives the conversation and stops people from learning the possible benefits to them and then taking that step forward.
Again, going back to that whole person approach, it is not a black and white answer.
Yeah.
What are all the different things that are making up your financial fitness? And that's just one small component of it.
Totally.
So, we're talking, it's hard to get started. What are the simple steps that people can take to get unstuck and start improving their financial fitness?
My favorite thing to do is to tell people, depending on what type of saver you are, because for me, savings is a cornerstone to financial confidence, financial freedom, and understanding how to create generational wealth. And one of the easiest ways to do that is just start, right? And start in a way that makes sense. Just the way that you get paid direct deposit to your checking account, you can add on your direct deposit elections. 100% usually goes to your checking account. You can put 99% to your checking and 1% to your savings account, and it goes directly to that savings account. But make sure that savings account is not attached to your checking account. You don't see it, don't get the debit card. If you do, cut it up, throw it somewhere.
Set boundaries, keep yourself in safety, remove,
the temptation.
Mm-hmm. And, what I also heard, you said 1%. It could be the smallest amount. Part of it is just the act and the practice of taking it and putting it from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Taking that sting out, taking that first step.
Yeah, and it's like you said, when we go full circle to financial fitness, it's building that savings muscle. Even at 1%, if you're lifting weights and you're using 5 pounds, that's still something.
Yep. Absolutely. I talk on the show how things are interconnected and the impact, how shifting one thing to another impacts our wellness and clearly impacts our finances. And our finances impact our ability to purchase nutritious food, how we socialize, how we exercise, how we often get stuck in careers because we are afraid of losing the lucrative salary that we're getting. How do you help people figure out what to do in that situation? You know, how do you balance it out? How do you make those shifts? Because it's so, like, the mountain is so huge. How do you start to scale that mountain?
Starts with the conversation, you know, and I'm sorry if it sounds like I keep saying the same thing, but it's really because it sometimes starts so simple, you know, really understanding what your pain points are and then moving through them. Because if you're not honest with yourself, then you can't make an honest decision that then supports your health and wellness, right? And understanding the money trauma that's attached to it. Because take someone, for the example that you utilized, someone that knows that they need to make a different step in their career, but are terrified of changing their financial situation. But their mental health and well-being is trampled on every day because they're choosing to go with the money because of whatever trauma that they're dealing with and can't find a way to let go of. And having the conversation of, okay, well, let's talk about that. Where is that coming from and how do you feel about it?
And I agree with you when you say you feel like you're repeating yourself, because when I'm working with my clients, it's the same conversation. It starts with the conversation, understanding, creating the awareness. What are those pain points? Where do you want to be? For, you know, yes, there's trauma, yes, there's stigma. How do we put that aside? How do we take that first step that you are ready to take today? It's not for me to tell you what to do.
Yep.
I'm here to help guide you, and that's what I'm hearing from you.
Absolutely.
What resources are available to help us improve our financial fitness?
Well, my lovely self, first of all. But I do love utilizing this woman called the Budgetnista.
Ooh.
She is amazing, and I think she's a bestseller now. I'm not going to butcher her name, so we're just going to call her the Budgetnista. But she does a really good job of helping people understand how to budget for their current lifestyle without having to put themselves on a financial diet. And that's something that I speak to for myself. So it's a nice, easy way for people to get started and putting pen to paper. For those that aren't ready to, you know, sit down with a professional and have a conversation, I think that that's really helpful. And then there are a bunch of podcasts that you can listen to, like the Not Rich Yet podcast is one of my favorites. But just nice, easy ways to kind of step into the conversation if you're not ready to have the conversation. If you are, I got you.
It's, you know, understanding the stages of change, where you are. You know, there's some people who could, you know, they're not ready. They don't even know that there's the ability to change.
Yep.
And then there's, you know, it's going to do, you know, I'm going to make that change in 6 months. I'm going to make that change next month. Taking those small steps to figure out where you are in that process to make it easy and accessible.
Yep.
Before you share this week's practice, are there any other tips to help our audience make healthy financial decisions to get that financial fitness?
I think it starts with making money conversations normal in your circles. Whether that your circle is your family, whether your circle is your friends, whether your circle is at work, like interconnecting all of those circles and really just having the conversation. You don't have to like whip out your salary on the table and start talking about it like that. But, you know, like getting to a place where you can say, hey, I read this article. Does anybody know about that? And just having it be safe and calm and regular.
It's just like we have been taught that talking about our finances is taboo. We can change that conversation.
Absolutely.
And learn new thoughts that having this conversation is okay, that it is normal, and that it is really to everybody's benefit, us and all those people that it impacts.
Yeah.
So you have shared amazing information. Please share your practice that you would like to have our audience be aware of to create their own financial fitness.
Yeah, so I do a lot of affirmations. And most of the time in the beginning of the morning, because that's when your mind is most clear. But I also preface it with saying, whenever you can get to it, and circle around the idea of money being an energetic exchange. I understand money is an energetic exchange, and saying things like, money flows to me effortlessly. I am worthy of increasing my income. I am worthy of all the things that I desire. And we know affirmations are super powerful and manifestation is very powerful. But I think sometimes we think that that's only related to the physical things that we want in our life. But the same thing goes for money. If you can put yourself in a situation where you are setting an intention for achieving a goal in your job, you can do the same thing, setting an intention for your relationship with money.
It's that positive mindset. It matters no matter what topic we're talking about, and that we have the ability to shift and to create those more positive thoughts to create that abundance.
Definitely.
So thank you. You have been such a wealth of information, part of the fun, and helping us better understand our finances and how they impact our health and wellness. If you are looking to continue the conversation, please join me each month for my office hours, my curated conversations to Let's Talk About, which is really continuing the conversations of what we are doing here, as well as I want to learn more about you. Feel free to email me, share your questions, share your challenges so that we can turn those into opportunities and have you taking the next step that's best for you. Please tune in next time for Getting Healthy Without Rules.